Hey, everybody. Today I want to talk about adult friendships. And I don't know about you, but I have found it very difficult to maintain adult friendships. And it all started back when I was a newlywed. I realized that I could no longer maintain friendships with my girlfriends that weren't married. Then when I had kids, I found out that I could no longer maintain friendships with people that didn't have children. Then when I moved, and we've moved several times over our lives, that I could not maintain friendships with people once I moved. And so this is something that I think many of us are wondering about or curious about because we'd like to have friendships as we get older. We'd like to have friendships after we retire. And it seems to be very, very difficult to maintain any kind of long-term friendship. And so I have had a tendency to take all of this personally. I would, take it very personally when I would, invite people over and they would make excuses that they couldn't come. Um, and then I realized that I, have done the same thing, that I was not being a good friend for whatever reason, whether it was, my life was different. And so I think what I have found out, what I've learned is that adult friendships, particularly as we get older, are very, very difficult to achieve. Finding friends becomes more difficult. And it's also very difficult to maintain adult friendships. But what I've learned is there are three pillars or three things that need to be present in order for us to be friends. And if we look at it that way, because this was very enlightening to me, if I look at it this way with the three basic fundamentals or the three foundations for being friends, then I found that I don't take it so personally. So anyway, the first one is proximity. So proximity is when, we're around other people. And let's say, for example, when we're kids and we're all, you know, playing with the kids in the neighborhood and we're friends with the people at school and we stay in touch and we're all, in the same space. We're all able to maintain those friendships because we're all in the same space at the same time. Okay. So that's one of the things we need is proximity. So as we get older and we lose proximity, much like I lost proximity after I got married, I lost proximity when we moved to another neighborhood from where I was friends with, my girlfriends, then that made it much more difficult to maintain any friendships. And then number two, it's time. Time is when we get into that stage of our life where we are very busy with our own lives. So even though we might have people that want to be our friends and we want to maintain friendships with, we just don't have the time. We're busy with our kids, we're busy with work, we're busy with all of the things that go along with maintaining a home, and we just don't have the time. So I don't know about you, but I've had situations where I know that people have reached out and wanted to be friends, but I felt that I didn't have the time. I didn't have the time to invest in being friends with them. So, this is all mutual. This goes back and forth, whether or not we're in proximity and whether or not we have the time, whether or not they have the time for me and whether or not I have the time for them. So I'm really learning to look at these things very differently than maybe I did in the past. And then the other thing that I have learned is it's energy. It's the energy that we can invest in a friendship. And not everybody can give us the same energy. And we can't all give everybody the same energy. So this is something that I have really wondered about because I know when I was younger, I used to take it very, very personally when people wouldn't show up for things or when people didn't invite me to things. Um, Things that I thought I would be included in, and I wasn't included. And so for many years, I was looking at it like it was something that I did or something I said, something in me. And the funny thing is I know there will be people out there and they go, well, it is you. Okay. Who would want to be friends with you? I mean, I get that. Okay. We can't all like everybody and everybody can't like us. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I learned these three pillars. I was listening to Mel Robbins and she is the just let them person. And she was talking about the proximity. We need to be around people in order to maintain friendships. And we need to have the time to, invest in those friendships. And we also have to have the energy to be able to invest in those friendships. So, this is something that really lifted a burden from me because I worry about this kind of stuff. And, I don't know about you guys, if you've been able to maintain friendships. Like I said, I have not been able to maintain friendships like I would have hoped. And it seems to be getting more and more difficult the older I get. And I have heard people tell me that, yeah, as soon as they retired or switched jobs or moved, like in my case, when we moved, people just don't keep in touch, no matter how hard you try. Okay, so um, people retire, they don't keep in touch with their coworkers. Um, People move, people don't keep in touch. So again, that has to do with the proximity. If we're not around people, we just can't keep up this friendship. And I like the example that Mel gave. She said, for example, if you were in a college dorm and you are across the room from somebody, or your dorm is next door to somebody else's, more than likely you're going to be friends. This was some sort of scientific study, and more than likely you're going to be friends with that person. But the person down the hall, you're not going to be friends with them. So that's where the proximity comes in, that you really, really do need to be around people in order to be friends with them. And then the time, of course, like I said, it's when we move on and we just don't have the time for friendships. And even though we have time right now in retirement, we might not have the proximity. And I think that's my case. Okay. I think that's my case. I don't have the proximity. Um, and then there's the energy. And some people just don't have the energy to maintain friendships because you do have to give in order to receive. So if we're not going to be a good friend, we can't have friends. We're not going to have friends. If we're not a good friend, we're not going to have good friends. But this is something I've been curious about because I have seen people in my life that have been able to maintain friendships from when they were kids. That person that's been friends with somebody for 30 years. And I don't know if they meet these three pillars, the proximity, the time, and the energy, or if there's some other magic bullet happening here. So I'm not really sure what it is for people, but I would really appreciate it if you would let me know. Let me know what you think about adult friendships, how that's working for you. And yeah, so that's about all I have for today. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. I'm Marlene with Rebel Retirement, and I'll see you next time.